This is 2006 Nissan Altima. It's giving me a code for P2a00. As you can see there, this code keeps popping up. It came up with another code for O2 sensor, bank 1 sensor 1. I switched that sensor, the oxygen sensor, which is really hard. I switched it and it cleared the other code, but this code keeps popping up. I reset the memory, did that resetting for these type of cars. When you change the oxygen sensor, that code keeps popping up if you don't reset the memory or relearn or whatever that thing is called. I did that and the code still pops up. You know, I put a smoke test through the tailpipes so it could go all over the exhaust to see if there was a leak in the exhaust, and I did find a leak in between oxygen sensor 1 and sensor 2 on bank 1. Bank 1 is really hard to get because it's all the way back there underneath the exhaust manifold. And it's really hard to get to because there's no space and it's down there. You know, it's a difficult job. You know, you have to pretty much take all this off, take this off, and it makes it a lot easier. When I did the exhaust test, I did find a leak coming out underneath this right here. It's kind of hot, so I don't want to touch it too much. Coming out right here, you know, and that's between oxygen sensor 1, which is up there, and oxygen sensor 2 right here. So I believe that's what's causing it. So I'm gonna have to take this off and see if I could weld it. I'm gonna take this cover off first, see if I'm able to access that hole, and see if I could weld it so I could clear that code to see where it's leaking from. With that machine, it's a snap-on machine. I covered this this other exhaust pipe so smoke doesn't come out through there. So smoke is going to be traveling all the way over here, and later you're going to see a leak over here. I took out the cover already to see where exactly it's leaking from. I'm hoping it's just either a gasket or maybe tying the bolts and nuts to cover that leak. But I hope there's no hole on it so I don't have to weld anything. But we'll find out right now. So it's this back one right here. I started seeing the smoke coming out. I don't know if you guys could see it very well, but you can see like smoke coming out. See all that? That's where the leak is. So I'm gonna have to take off that catalytic converter. No, not the catalytic converter, the exhaust manifold, and see where it's leaking from. All the nuts and bolts on this little piece of exhaust pipe. You know, you gotta disconnect the oxygen sensor right there. You gotta take it out from here and here to lower the whole piece down. This whole piece, and then you worry about this piece over here that's leaking. So I figured instead of taking the whole thing off, I was gonna pop off the heat shield, which was this one right here. I was gonna pop it off because it was wobbly and dangling anyway, and because the smoke was coming out of there, I realized that there's 3 big holes, you know, 3 big holes in that part. So I think that's probably what was causing it to leak. You know, those 3 big holes. So I'm gonna have to weld those in. You know, and it kicked. See, that's the streak of smoke. It's kind of hard to tell, but that's where it's coming out of. See? That's where it's coming out of. The other ones don't seem to be leaking anything, but that one's the one that's mainly leaking. Look at that. That's causing that code. P2a00. That's the one that's causing the P2a00 because it's in between the 2 oxygen sensors. You know, it's right here, so it goes. That's the one that's right on that oxygen sensor, which gives us that P2a00. This is oxygen sensor 2. And the one on top is 1. You know, but it gives us oxygen sensor 1 code. So I had to weld that. So I'm taking out the bank 1 catalytic converter, which is the catalytic converter that's in the back. So what I had to do to take it off, it has 2 nuts on the top of the catalytic converter flange to take it out. I had to take those out from the top. The 3 or 2 bolts on the bottom, or 3 I think it is, I had to take them out from the bottom, so I had to worry about the top first. I'm taking off the air intake manifold first. It's 1 nut and 2 nuts and 3 bolts. They're all 12 millimeter. You take those off first. You disconnect some of the stuff. I'm doing something with the valve cover over here, so that's why I took out the valve cover. But in order for you to take off, I believe these 2 bolts, you have to take off this that's blocking it, and this is blocking it, which is a 10 millimeter and a 12 millimeter bolt. So 10 millimeter bolt, 12 millimeter. You take those off and you set that to the side, and you have a clearance for those 3 12 millimeter bolts. You start taking those off, and I already took off the air intake, which was the 2 clips right here, 2 clips, and then there's like a Phillips lock that you take off. You unscrew and then you just pull that off easily. Take out the hose as well, the clamp, and you pull that off. That's not so hard, but you have to move this air intake manifold out of the way for you to get those 2 bolts from the catalytic converter. You start disconnecting stuff, but I'll let you know what else I have to do on this. This bolt right here and that bolt right there, just to get those out of the way to release it from the air intake manifold. Anything attached to it, I just take off, just to get those out of the way, and it won't bug you. So this is out. This is out. The next one I'm gonna do these right here, the 2 12 millimeter nuts for that pipe, exhaust pipe. I don't know what it's for, but I'm gonna take those off from the exhausting, just to pull this back to release that air intake manifold. You also have to release it from the bottom. I believe they're 2 14s, or right here. I move this out of the way so I could focus better. those two down there. Those right there. Those two bolts, you have to take it off so you can release that thing and pull it off. They're actually 12 millimeter bolts that you take off. Once you take that off, you're able to pull this off. You're able to pull this off and just put it to the side so it won't bug you when you're releasing that. After that, there's this tube right here that you have to take off. Just take that off like that. There's that tube, and then back there, there's a few, I want to say maybe 12 millimeter bolts that hold down to a bracket that have this really still. So after you take all that, even though it's loose, that bracket holds it on, and you won't be able to take it out. I think you can see the back side of the bracket right there. Where is it? It's not enough light. Let me see if I can get some light down there. But you see that back side right there? There's a few bolts that go right there. You know, that attach to a bracket that won't let it release. So you got to take those out first. I took one of them out. It's a 12 millimeter bolt that goes behind on that bracket. Mine only had one, but there's two. Normally there's two. So I believe they took it out before and they never put it back in. But you know, that's where this comes in handy. You know, these adjustable ones make it very easy for you to take off those bolts. I would advise that kind of wrench. So now you're able to pull this off. Or maybe there's I think one or two more hoses back here you have to take out. It's gonna be this hose right here and this one right here. Take those out, and then it should be those two hoses. The one that goes right here, which is this one, and this one right here that goes right here. And then there's that bottom one underneath the throttle body that you release, which is this one that has coolant, so it's gonna leak a little bit of coolant. But other than that, you know, it's it still has that one. I still have, let's see if you can see it, that one right there, which is this one right here. You gotta release that one. It's a lot of hoses that you gotta remember. I think that one's a coolant hose as well, so I'll take that one off. I took that hose off already. It goes back underneath the throttle body. Take the clamp off, make sure it doesn't fall. But that's it. It should be free to go. Nothing else should be stopping it. There you have it. That's how you take that off. Now you just got to be careful when you pull it off. Make sure you don't yank any wires or anything like that, break any connectors. Just gotta be careful. And after that gives you all the space to work on your car. You know, and we're gonna be taking off that heat shield right there. We're gonna take that off, move it to the side, and once we take out that heat shield, we're able to take off those two nuts that hold the exhaust manifold. I mean the catalytic converter.